All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Just to briefly recap our last game. Again, it was I think Coach O'Leary said it very well after the game. It was a great college football game, and two outstanding football teams, two great football programs, going toe-to-toe for 60 minutes, about 3.5 hours in total. And again, I think we had a great week of practice going into the game. Our student athletes, our staff, and our coaches were very confident all last week, and felt like we were going to be successful until the fourth down play was not. So another great challenge this week in another great program in the University of Louisville, one I'm very familiar with, having worked there for 3 years, about 10 years ago. And again, I've got a great deal of respect for Coach Strong and his staff. They've done a tremendous job in the really relatively short time he and his staff have been there. Built it up now where it's one of the top 5 or 10 programs nationally. I think Tom Jurich, the athletic director, again has done an outstanding job with all sports in general, and I think it's no fluke the way their football program has performed recently. So be a great challenge, again, one that we're going to prepare for, and one everyone in our program is excited about and looking forward to. Any questions? Yeah, Daniel Spencer, I expect him to be limited today. He will practice, but it will not be the entire practice, and it will not be contact today. We're cutting back a lot on the contact today anyway, and I anticipate that he will play on the Saturday. Yeah, it was a shoulder injury. Yeah, the question is the task going on the road and really their fan base. And I think, I've been asked about that now for the last few weeks in terms of our young student athletes going on the road, our freshman quarterbacks. And I think it's, I've said this going in, and I didn't know this really until really the season started, how this young team would react to going on the road and playing in hostile environments and sellout crowds. And what we've come to find out and recognize is our young men like that. So when you look at our schedule, the last few games in particular, we go on the road up to New Jersey and play a Rutgers team for homecoming. Sellout crowd, 52,000 fans, play extremely well, certainly win the game. This last game we go on the road, another sellout, over 50,000 fans, hostile environment. The way Central Florida Stadium is set up, the fans are almost right on top of you on the sideline, and again, competed extremely hard. We're not intimidated, and it's going to be the same thing this week. Again, having been at Louisville, again, they sell out regardless of who they're playing, so we know it's going to be a great crowd this weekend, and another opportunity to get great exposure on national TV, and again, our kids are thriving off of that, so they enjoy playing in front of big crowds. We're getting that on the road the last couple of games, so it's something that certainly they're going to look forward to.
Tony, what kind of challenges does it present when you face a quarterback like Teddy Bridgewater? And obviously you've seen what he's done the last few years and been in the Heisman discussion. Mm-hmm. But what is that challenge for you guys? Well,
that's when you're facing a quarterback like Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, and we've faced some really good ones the last couple of games. Nova at Rutgers. Again, I bring him up because he's talented and we were on the road. Blake Bortles is an future NFL quarterback at Central Florida. Certainly Teddy Bridgewater is going to be a first-round draft pick at quarterback as well. And I think, there's certainly a lot of correlations in winning and losing football games. But I am a believer in that at the end of the day, one of them is if you have an outstanding quarterback, you got a great chance to win football games, and so among other things, that's one of the reasons why Louisville's been successful. Teddy Bridgewater, he's thrown for just under 3,000 yards, I think 3 interceptions, and I want to say around 24 touchdowns. He's completing almost 72% of his passes. So, and he's a guy, again, that does not get rattled, loves to play the game, understands what they want to do on offense, is very, very accurate with the football. And you can see you can see on video the respect he's earned from his teammates, whether it's offensive line, receivers, everybody. They play so hard. Not only for their program, but I think for him in particular. So it's going to be a great challenge, you know. And again, you look at him, you study his game, and if you were to ask give me a flaw in Teddy Bridgewater, I'd have no answer, because there's a reason, again, at some point he's going to be a high draft pick in the National Football League. Well, I think, you know, I think I agree with your question in terms of as a whole this season. I think we're balanced. I feel like earlier in the year we ran the ball a little bit more. Most recently we have not as much, and we need to get back to doing that. You know, certainly we've got talented running backs, specifically Kenneth Farrow and Ryan Jackson. Our offensive line is really playing their best football together right now at this point of the season. So we've got to do a better job establishing the run, taking a little bit of pressure off of our young quarterbacks. And again, we've even in this last game, we had a couple of wrinkles in there that we were successful with. Probably didn't run it enough, and that's something we need to do, not only to help our offense take pressure up, but to help our defense as well, and have a little bit more time of possession, let them stay on the sidelines defensively a little bit longer than they have been.
Tony, with Zach unable to play the first half, kind of updates on how you address that position, and was he playing? You kind of had him playing some. Was it safety against UCF?
He was.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely he was. And again, certainly we don't want to lose Zach McMillan for half of this game, but if there's a positive to this point, and I've mentioned this before, at corner specifically, along as well as our defensive line, we've been rotating a number of young men in there. So William Jackson will start in place of Zach McMillan. Again, he's been playing a bunch of football for us in the last 5 or 6 games. Teron Walker's been playing a lot for us in the last 3 or 4 games. So we've got some depth there, and that's really going to be the plan until Zach is allowed to play in the third quarter.
On the other end, Tony, on Louisville's side, defensively, they played really well this year, specifically on the D-line at the 2 ends. Can you kind of just address what they've done, especially Marcus Smith? I believe he has 11 sacks, leads the nation.
Well, they're again, when you look at this program, there's a reason really last year and this year they've been ranked so high nationally in terms of the top 25. They're not a one-dimensional team. Everybody knows, again, about Teddy Bridgewater and their offense and all the weapons they have with their skill guys. Defensively, they're giving up 10 points per game. So, you know, obviously that's Coach Strong's background as a defensive coach, and their defensive front is extremely active, very talented. I think they're up right there in the top of the country in sacks defensively as well. They get turnovers. Their defensive backs are all over the field, and they're not small either. They've got great size and speed. And then on special teams, they're very dangerous in the return game as well. So this is there's a reason, again, a number of reasons I should say why they're a top 25 team. They're averaging almost 40 points a game, and they're giving up 10 points a game. So they're winning games as a team. And again, I think you know, it's certainly a compliment to Coach Strong and the job he and his staff have done in the 4 years or so that they've been there.
Going back to looking at the film, did you talk about the drop passes? Concerned? It looks unfair for all time.
No, I'm not concerned, and I wouldn't call it an off night. You know, again, we don't ever want any drop passes, and we had, you know, we grade our young men hard, if you will. and we feel like if it hits their hands, they should catch it. You know, having said that, I think there were some catches that certainly our young men think they should make, but that were not easy as well. And you know, we had a couple of drops, again, specifically the ones that stand out that are more uncharacteristic than any were the ones early in the game, where we had a chance to stay on the field, move the chains, get in a rhythm, and we dropped balls that we have not dropped in quite some time. So, again, no reason, in our opinion, to panic. We have confidence in our young men, and I think they'll make those plays this week.
You know, sorry if this is already asked and answered, but
I can't hear you.
sorry if this was already asked and answered, but Greg Ward didn't get any playing time. Was that talked about before the game, or was that a decision during the?
Yes, talked about before the game, during, and after.
Well, could you tell us the reasoning behind why he didn't play?
Well, again, it's there's some game planning that goes into that based on who we're playing, what they do defensively. So again, that like I mentioned before, we'll have a specific plan for both Greg and John going into each game. And like I've said a number of times too, that plan could mean that they're not playing this week. And so again, it'll vary by opponent, vary by situations. And again, we'll have a specific plan for those two this week as well.
And also, like 9 games in, do you think that the team is starting to get a feel for the the new targeting rule? I know McMillan was called for that penalty. Did y'all kind of understand how they're going to call it, or?
Yeah, our young men absolutely understand how the officiating is going to call the targeting rule.
Did you think that it was the correct application of the rule, or?
Well, it obviously was. You know, they reviewed it and upheld it.
Coach, it's such a young team, and they had a heartbreaker against BYU. Responded well.
Mm-hmm.
You have a game, it comes down, first and goal, you don't score. Do you feel like the team is responding well this week?
Well, it's an interesting question you ask. It's probably one I can answer better in a few days. I do know what the answer will be, but I think at this point of our week, and just to take you kind of back what our schedule's been throughout each week this season, is Sundays we come in, we have a team meeting for about 15 minutes, talk about the game we just had, talk about the schedule this week and what kind of is in front of us, and then we watch the video, special teams from the game before and offense and defense from the game before, and then at this point in the season, we don't practice. We go out and condition for about 10 or 15 minutes, and they eat dinner and go back to their dorm or apartments and have Monday off. So Monday they just go to class, get treatment if they're banged up, but there is nothing football related for them. So while we did see them, I'll say briefly Sunday, the next time we're really going to have great contact with them in terms of the message and the environment and atmosphere for this week will be this afternoon, Tuesday. We talked about as a staff this morning, your exact question is in terms of what just happened a few days ago, the program we're playing, again, on the road, a great crowd, national TV, and how we've got to get our team focused, maybe refocused for this opponent in this game Saturday. So, again, I know what the answer to your question is going to be at the end of the week, but like I told our staff, starting today, or continuing today rather, it's our job as coaches to get them in the right frame of mind, practicing how we need to go ahead and be successful, so that when Saturday's here, they're ready to play.
Tony, on the offensive line, when Rowdy was here last week, we had talked about with him just some of the moves, specifically with him, and how you've kind of had to juggle some things this year.
Mm-hmm.
But now that maybe there's some stability moving forward, have you seen that in the last few weeks?
Yes, absolutely. And then Coach Ellerby and I met on specifically our offensive line on Sunday night, and I'm saying yes to your question. And now that we've had some guys stay healthy for a few weeks now, you're seeing Rowdy and DeAnthony Sims at left tackle really playing well individually and playing well together. Zach Johnson had probably his best game of the season in Saturday's game against Central Florida at right tackle. Again, he's a redshirt sophomore. Kevin Forsch is solid, plays well every week. And so we're seeing those guys playing their best football together up front right now, which is certainly when we need them to.
Coach, I know since the BYU game, a lot of teams have been kind of bigger than y'all on, especially on defense. Do you think the defense is starting to adjust to playing against those bigger teams and trying to stop the run?
Do I think our defense is? I do, and I think we're kind of unique defensively in that, and I've talked about this with our student athletes. We've talked about it as a staff. Across the board, I feel like we're very fast. And while you may look at a depth chart of an opponent like a BYU or a Rutgers or a UCF and see linebackers listed as 240 pounds, 245 pounds, ours are listed at 215 and 220, but they're extremely fast. They're outstanding tacklers. And what I'm seeing when we turn on our video is multiple defenders for us sprinting full speed to the ball carrier. And when you got guys that are 215, 220, can run like that, and are meeting each other full speed at the ball carrier, you're seeing not many missed tackles, and you're seeing us create turnovers. So, again, we may be slightly undersized, especially in comparison to some of these other programs that we've faced recently in our conference. But again, the speed, the ability to tackle, change direction, and certainly the job we're doing creating turnovers are three big pluses for us.
I didn't get a chance to ask you this at the game, but Richie Leone, third straight year he's a semifinalist for the Ray Guy. I mean, you've said it every week, every chance about what he means to the program, and that you consider him one of the best. But what does that mean to have him get that 3 years in a row?
Well, it's a tribute certainly to the job that he's done and the hard work he has put in. He's another young man that you probably laugh when you talk about young men gaining weight at the punting position. But when we recruited him, he was about 190 pounds and 6'3". He's pushing close to 6'4" now, and he's anywhere from 210 to 215 at the high end. And again, in terms of and you may not think of this when you talk about a kicker or a punter, but I've been around some great ones. I've certainly been around and coached some NFL ones, and changing his diet the last couple of years, getting more flexible, really working on his core in terms of strength and conditioning, have all attributed to his ability right now. And again, to come in, play as a true freshman at that position where you're standing out there by yourself, and again, when he was a true freshman, he had to hit some pretty good punts for us to help us with field position, gave him great experience, and then to be up for this award 3 years in a row, I think is certainly a compliment to him. And I will say this, and I mentioned this to our student athletes a couple of weeks ago, in as long as I've been coaching special teams, the 10 guys that have been covering punts for us, and certainly protecting the punts and then covering the punts and covering our kickoffs is as good as I've been around. So they get a lot of credit. I think we gave up a long punt return to South Florida a couple of weeks ago, and that might have been the first punt return we've given up this year that has not been a negative yardage return. So, when you talk about his average, it's a little bit down from what it was, I think, a year or two ago. And that is a result of us punting more often this season, just a little bit coincidentally from the 50-yard line, to where you see some punters, and we've had punters here in the past that have been so concerned about their average that when you punt from the 50, they're kicking it into the end zone so they get a 50-yard punt. But then when they bring it out to the 20, you've only net 30 yards. And I think certainly everybody's saying the job Richie's done placing the ball not only inside the 20 but inside the 10-yard line, which has really helped our defense. It's given us points. We've gotten the ball back offensively, and we saw a great example of that against Central Florida when we pinned them down at the 2-yard line late in the game.
Coach, obviously, every week is a busy week for you, game planning, preparation. This is an interesting week for the university alumni. Case, of course, is still starting. DJ comes back into town. Have they reached out to you? Are you going to try and attend the game, given the high-profile nature of the game?
Well, I mean, you're going to think there's certainly no way Coach Levine didn't know the Texans were playing the Raiders Sunday, but you just told me that. So, yeah, I'm not going to be able to make the game. Again, I talk to DJ and Case on a regular basis. The Texans had a bye a couple weeks ago, and Case came over and spent about an hour at our practice, just being Case Keenum and just watching. Didn't speak to the team. Was wearing a baseball hat and a T-shirt and his flip-flops, and was just watching us practice. So, I talk to those guys all the time. Certainly very proud of them, and great ambassadors, great representatives of our program. And I can't say enough great things about those two. It's going to be interesting. Case trying to throw the ball and DJ trying to defend it. But I know this about those two. They're as competitive as two young men I've ever been around. Before the game, they'll certainly have a lot to talk about. During the game, they're both going to try to win it for their respective teams. And then after the game, they'll certainly win or lose. One of them's going to be on each side. They'll talk again and wish each other the best. When do they play? Sunday at noon? Noon. Anything else? All right, thank you.